Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Your webcast is about to begin. Scott, please go ahead.
All right, and thank you, Miriam, and hello, everyone. As Miriam mentioned, my name is Scott Ferguson, and welcome to today's webcast entitled Balancing Growth Objectives with Operational Efficiency, Unleashing Partner Productivity. This event is brought to you today by Consulting Magazine, and it is sponsored by Williams Lea. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some basic housekeeping items about the webcast console. This event is completely interactive and features many customizable functions. Every window that you currently see, from the slide window to the Q&A panel, can either be enlarged or collapsed. So if you want to change the look and feel of your console, please go ahead. Since today's event is set up as a fireside chat, we're also encouraging everyone in our audience to increase their video viewer and to minimize their slide presentation. If you have a question for any one of our speakers today, please enter it into the Q&A widget on your console. That widget is accessible on the left-hand side of your screen where you see the question mark icon. We'll answer your questions either during the event or as part of the live Q&A session, which we have scheduled toward the end. We'll answer as many questions as possible, so we invite you to ask away. And if we did not get to your question, you may receive an email response after today's event. In addition, our sponsor, Williams Lea, has several additional resources that you can download and explore later. And now for today's topic and the reason why everybody is here today: balancing growth objectives with operational efficiency, unleashing partner productivity. And with that, I'm going to turn the conversation over to Michael Webb, Director of Consulting Magazine. And Michael, you can take it away.
Thank you, Scott. I'd like to welcome everyone to our panel today. We're going to cover some very interesting aspects of how firms today are striking the balance between strategic growth and operational efficiency. And we will get right to it. So first, let me introduce our panelists for today. Claire Hart is the CEO of Williams Lea. Claire is responsible for driving profitable growth, enabling high-performance cultures, and delivering superior client service and solutions to Williams Lea clients. She has over 25 years of functional experience across technology-enabled business services and was formerly CEO and board member for Sterling Talent Solutions. While at Sterling, she doubled the size of the company, revenue, and EBITDA, and scaled business through organizational, cultural, and technological improvements. With previous executive and leadership roles at Info Group, Dow Jones Company News Corporation, Dow Jones Enterprise Media Group, and Factiva, she has been included in Inside Market Data's 2010 Hall of Fame and Drexel University's Drexel 100. She also served on the boards of the directors of the Direct Marketing Association and Software and Information Industry Association. Claire, welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Great to be here.
Our next panelist is Aaron Chagrin, Head of AI Strategy for Communications, Media, and Technology clients with Cognizant. Aaron has spent 25 years dealing with all aspects of business and technology. In his current role, he leads product strategy, sales, and marketing teams, and consulting and delivery teams across multiple technology companies. He has M&A, divestiture, and venture capital experience, and has monetized a multi-billion dollar IP fund. Aaron led 2 SaaS startup companies. One developed an AI-based novel digital optimization solution, and the other a conversational AI omnichannel platform. Both companies were acquired by larger entities. Aaron, welcome to our panel today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next panelist is Brittany Sipos. She is the Chief Operations Officer at ALM Consulting Group. Brittany is an industry veteran with more than 20 years in marketing, sales, project management, and client relations. Brittany joined ALM Consulting Group in 2012, and in her role as CEO, she oversees as COO, she oversees the internal operations and plays a pivotal role in shaping the organization's strategic vision and driving operational excellence. Brittany works across the organization to define and implement business processes that support delivery of high-quality services to all of Halloran's clients. She provides strategic guidance and management of the operational infrastructure, including systems, data, compliance, and processes to support Halloran's long-term growth. Brittany, thank you for joining us today. Welcome.
Happy to be here.
Our final panelist is John Norcus, Managing Director of Pricing and Commercial Excellence with KPMG. As the chief pricer for KPMG US, John is responsible for understanding all the moving parts of a professional services marketplace and directing the firm toward the best financial destination possible. John spent 25 years as a partner at Deloitte, where he specialized in transforming sales, marketing, and service functions among a variety of industries, including industrial products, consumer business, financial services, oil and gas, agribusiness, med devices, and technology. He has been recognized by Consulting Magazine as a top 25 consultant and recently published a book about his experience called Inside Management Consulting. John, it's good to have you on the panel. Thank you and welcome.
Good to see you, Michael.
So our goal today is to examine a little deeper how firms are striking the balance between strategic growth and operational efficiency, and what strategies they're using to elevate their performance, from harnessing technology to investing in the right support partners. So at the core of our conversation today is a recent survey conducted by Williams Lea and Consulting Magazine. This report serves as a core element for the relevant questions and discussions we're going to cover in today's webcast. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn this over for a few moments to Claire Hart to give us a brief overview of the survey and its core findings. Claire?
Okay. Michael, thank you, and welcome to everyone. Thank you all for joining us today, and a special thank you to all of the panelists who've offered to share their insights with the group. A quick intro to Williams Lea for those of you who don't know us and why we asked ALM to organize this event. Williams Lea provides business support services to professional, financial, and legal services organizations across the globe. We're a 7,000 person company owned by Advent International, one of the largest private equity firms in the world. For consulting firms, our services support the delivery of knowledge work produced by partners and consultants. Our talent produces, we're a human capital business, and our talent produces presentation and creative services to create impactful PowerPoint presentations, white papers, video content, and document production. We also provide secretarial and administrative support to provide operational support for tasks related to consultant activities, such as expense management, timekeeping, billing, and internal reporting. And when we speak with our clients in the consulting firms, we hear several key themes. The first is that while the partners and consultants devote much of their resources and expertise to advising clients on how to build efficient and resilient organizations, and everybody can appreciate this, their own internal organizations are often a little slower to adopt the technologies and operational models that improve efficiency and drive growth. The second theme is partners and consultants are still spending too much valuable and billable time on administrative and non-core tasks. And they're looking for technology and expertise to reduce this burden. The third thing our clients, operational leaders at mid-size and enterprise, consulting firms tell us is there are a few places that they can go to network with their peers. It's very hard to find a forum to network with their peers and share expertise to help inform their own internal operations and growth strategies. So Williams Lea's aim in partnering with ALM is to help the market address all three of these themes. We commissioned ALM to conduct a survey to help shine a light on the less discussed but equally important internal strategies that drive firms forward and the key challenges of balancing growth and operational efficiency. ALM surveyed more than 70 C-level executives from mid-size and large consulting firms in order to gain insights into the operational challenges, technology plans, budget priorities, and strategies they're employing to drive operational and fee earner efficiency. We use the survey findings to form the basis for this discussion. And throughout the next hour, Michael and the participants will share their thinking related to the findings. And we will provide everyone who's participating in this event a copy of the survey results. So Michael, back to you.
All right, thank you, Claire. So I think our first order of business is to kick off a question that's based on some of that data, and I'm going to cite one of the key data points. So that the survey showed that clearly AI is taking up large portions of consulting firms' budgets and just planning in general. 85% of these respondents cited AI as a top external influencer on budgeting decisions. 63% cited talent acquisition, retention, and development also as key influencers. So with big numbers like that, and clearly AI and talent acquisition being key elements, what are the most critical budgeting and spending decisions that professional firms face over the next 12 months? You know what, Brittany, I think you might be able to give us a good perspective on this. What are the critical budgeting and spending decisions that are hanging over your head for the next 12 months?
Sure. So, I mean, Halorn is in the life science consulting industry. So 2023, as for many other consulting firms, I'm sure it was a tough year for us. So we've been spending 2024 as a year to sort of restabilize. And I'd say our biggest investments right now are very much focused in sales and marketing. We're focusing on lead generation and making sure that we are reaching beyond our network. Our people, I think all of us share sort of that common thread where our people are our product. And so retention strategies, learning and development, those are areas that we're very focused on. And then I'd say the third bucket that we are focused on is technology to really drive efficiency and scalability. So as I mentioned, we're trying to sort of restabilize in 2024. And we often say what got us here is not going to get us where we want to go. So we do need to evolve the way we work, and we need to change and adopt. And I think the survey results are spot on with the way we are thinking about things right now. And I will say I'm looking forward to this conversation with other panelists because we are trying to figure it out like many other firms. We're trying to figure out, where do we adopt AI? Where do we lean into technology? And so I'd say we're in the early planning stages, but it's definitely it's a key portion of our strategy right now.
John, what would you add from the perspective of the big monster operations from KPMG's point of view?
Well, as we take a look at the marketplace, and this is really reviewing what's been happening inside the marketplace, what we're seeing is that there's not a whole lot of disagreement among leaders in the consulting space on what the destination looks like. It looks like a world in which AI is going to be a helper. Is it going to be completely replacing our resources? No, relationships are the coin of the realm when we think about consulting in the near and even in the long term. It's people that are ultimately going to be making the difference here. However, the question of how much, how fast, right? While we agree that AI is going to be assisting, how much, how fast, and where is a question that is still up for grabs across the entire marketplace. And so the notion of making investments is one of, if you will, making a bet on where we think this is and when we think this is going to be happening. The place that no organization wants to be in right now is one where the change has already occurred and the technology has yet to be adopted, because that's a recipe for disaster. And so one of the great questions to be asked, and well, let's call upon some of the articles that we've seen from within our space, is that innovation, especially in AI, is a jagged frontier. Meaning we know that it's showing up, we know that it's showing up in spots, but where exactly that is happening, we still haven't figured out yet en masse. And so in order to prepare for what is coming, to make sure that we're not caught behind that, is the big question about where the money goes when we think about where we spend it.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. At Cognizant, We've set aside over $1 billion to invest in generative AI, both in technology and acquisitions and training our associates and consultants. But as John said, it's a very fine balance. I think last year, both for consulting firms and for the enterprises at large, it was a bit like the Wild West. Everybody was just kind of dipping their toes in different use cases. The technology was very exciting. Where this year, it's very much focused on what's the ROI? How do I actually realize value from these different initiatives that I'm taking and these investments? And I think we're finding, as you do in any new technology, the returns aren't exactly what you thought they would be and where you thought they would be. And so that's what I'm seeing is a little bit of a pullback in technology commercialization. They call that the valley of despair, where you've made all this huge investment and now you're waiting for this big pop. And that big pop's not going to happen until next year or even 2026. But as John said, you have to start laying that foundation today. Our clients are expecting it. And we're going to find as we're shifting from a labor arbitrage market to a technology arbitrage market, that if you don't have those things, you are going to be left behind very quickly.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I was just piggyback on top of that, which is ultimately the throttling mechanism for how quickly this is adopted is with our clients. Whether or not they are going to be consuming what it is we have to offer them and how they're consuming it, and the impetus or the momentum associated with what they've been used to over the course of their industry or their career. And so it's a very interesting set of tasks in front of us.
Yeah, I think anymore the investment in technology, the demand and the need for massive investment in this technology is table stakes anymore. You can't survive without it. Problem is we're getting into a car with unlimited horsepower, and we really have no idea how we're going to be able to control it, how much horsepower it's actually going to put in our hands. So the survey also noted that in terms for those who are looking to use AI, the resources we're generating new data and insights into new processes, creating marketing materials, sales collateral. They're looking to AI to relieve and create value. So how are technological advances influencing the budgets and spending priorities at mid to large consulting firms? I mean, there's a lot of money involved here. Aaron, you just said you guys are putting, $1 billion budget aside for that, and that's just for that. I mean, I know your budget's bigger than that. So, how are they influencing our budgets? Aaron, do you want to kick that off?
Yeah, I mean, I think we touched on it a bit on the last question. I mean, technologies, first it was kind of data analytics and then machine learning and then cloud computing. Now it's generative AI. Each of them becomes kind of table stakes and becomes a cornerstone for where firms are trying to build a competitive advantage. And so as John said, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of how much and how fast. And again, you don't want to get too far ahead of your skis, especially as was mentioned, last year was a bit of a rocky road for many consulting firms. So how do you balance it? And that's always a huge challenge. But again, our clients are investing in these areas. They look to us for guidance. They look for us to be able to, help them with productivity and optimizing around these challenges. And so in a way, I like to say we have to, eat our own dog food, drink our own champagne, whatever you want to say. We have to know what we're deploying with our clients. And that means making those investments, understanding the governance around those investments, because there's new governance models that will need to be put in place, new cybersecurity and other pieces to protect our data and our clients' data. I mean, all of these things are new avenues where the tech budgets are going to be heavily influenced.
In terms of what gets pushed up to you, let's talk about vendors and of course all the vendors that you work with are also upgrading and adding AI and doing that sort of thing. Do you find that that creates a benefit for you or creates problems? Do you have to invest more to match their technology? Brittany?
Yeah, so I think one thing that, Aaron mentioned is ROI is key here. And I think, Halloran is a much smaller organization than Cognizant and KPMG. And so this is top of mind as we start to dive into this landscape. So we know AI is a hot topic right now. We are taking it slow and steady. And so we do not have the billion-dollar budgets to invest in AI, but we do have current systems that they are investing in leveraging AI within their system. So I'd say for Halloran right now, we're leaning into the systems that we already have. Our EDMS, they're sort of putting different AI bells and whistles into their platform, and that will change the way we work, change the way we interact with content that we already have within our environment. And then, things like Copilot, like these are sort of small add-ons that we know we can gain some efficiencies and really dip our toe into the water versus massively sort of changing the way we work. So I'd say we're in the crawl phase before we walk and run.
Claire, what kind of conversations are you having with your clients related to this?
I think the expectation, there's a couple of things. The expectation with our clients is you are going to do something, Williams Lea, with AI to drive operational efficiency. So when I look at our top 3 services, presentation and creative, administrative support, and particularly in legal, document production and document management, the expectation is we're going to be looking at the tasks associated with each of these and drive efficiency. And we were an early access member for Microsoft Copilot, so we have a bit of a head start. We're already talking with our clients about some of the enhancements and improvements that they can get with Copilot. We've also been using AI and now generative AI to drive efficiency in terms of transcription services. So the law firms in particular need a lot of transcription services. So do banks, so do consulting firms. I learn every day what they're transcribing, and I'm actually shocked. Sometimes it's blogs because they don't want to sit and watch or listen to the blog, but they want to be able to read it and get to the key points. So having it transcribed, and just to give you a sense of the efficiency, an hour of recorded audio in an analog world takes about 7 hours to transcribe and QA. In a digitally enhanced and AI enhanced world, it takes about an hour for, to transcribe and QA. So we're improving efficiency with key elements of our services. Transcription's one, translation is another. And then even the way we take in requests from our clients, the largest investment banks, law firms, professional services firms, medium-sized firms as well. How can you more quickly turn around the request? So again, looking at AI to help us process in the way a human would think about the request. The technology is now thinking about the request. Okay, this request came in. It has 5 tasks. What skills are required to do that work? And are the skills available? So I think we're seeing that. And Michael, the other thing we're seeing, and I think it links to a little bit of what Brittany just said, crawl, walk, run. It's, not everyone is a large consulting firm with billions to put into this. We have seen that. One company we've worked with, they've built what I've called the Holy Grail. They can provide someone access to their internal information as well as massive amounts of external information in one search. So if they want to know who's done work with clean tech companies in California, they're going to be able to go through internal information as well as external. But most companies are selecting a project, putting a small team together, and the operative word is small, and then measuring results along the way. So success breeds success. And this has been going on now a year or more. And so I think we're seeing people take on bigger projects, but I think there are only a few companies that have gone for big bang. Most of our clients are going for proof of concept. Where's the pain point, and how do we get a small group of people really engaged around it, solve the problem with AI, or realize AI can't solve it and scrap the project quickly, but most likely see what can be done and then broadcast it internally, because that's just one example of what can be done.
Well, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I just want to add on that because I think I'm not sure if we're going to touch on it later. There is kind of the gorilla in the room, which is all of our clients, like you said, and many of the folks in our firm are taking this crawl, walk, run approach when it comes to experimenting, figuring out what works, what's really going to provide results. But then when our clients are talking to us about their contracts, they say, oh, well, I read that you can get 40% efficiency. So do I get a 40% cut in price on our contract, on our renewal here? And those are tough conversations that I think probably everyone is going through right now. And so when we talk about, balancing growth with efficiency, it's going to be a challenge just to maintain, much less grow, because of these expectations. And there's creative business models that we are trying to come up with to redirect those funds. But it's a pretty it's created these headwinds that I don't think are going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah.
Do you have a solution on the price challenge, Aaron? Because everybody's looking for that.
Yeah. I think that's going to be an eternal question, ongoing for a very long time, until we finally land on where the human element and what we're asking our computers to do for us. It's going to be a challenge. Claire, you touched on a point earlier with your mention of it takes 7 hours to hand transcribe an hour's worth of work. AI gets it done shorter. That can touch on fee earners. The folks who are out there generating the bills for us, and when those fees are in the hundreds of dollars per hour, that makes their time extremely valuable. So saving 6 hours on a transcription to get the content they need to help promote themselves as thought leaders or provide information for their clients has extreme value. The survey asked which top 3 support structures had the biggest impact on fee earner productivity. 71% said that development and management of marketing and thought leadership initiatives, which is kind of what you were talking about, white papers, database management, digital video content, et cetera, that dominated. The second 2 were expense management and client billing, both coming in at about 42 and 41%. So that's an important element of this. And I think the AI element is about freeing up time for the fee earners to earn fees and not do back office work, for lack of a better term. So how does the development and management of thought leadership and marketing initiatives otherwise impact the fee earners? What are some examples that you could share? John?
Yeah, I'm going to take this one and bat it back. Most of what we're seeing, the larger challenge that we're having here, Michael, is one where those hours that we're saving were previously charged to the client in terms of collecting information, et cetera. One of the differences, and the things that I'm saying here are largely universal, which is, okay, is that time spent better, right, in a chargeable mode, and what was previously chargeable and is now saved, is that also included in what the client is paying for from a value perspective, right? Does the client see the value in what's being produced? Is it of higher quality? Are we selling it into the marketplace in a way where the client actually appreciates the speed associated with it or the quality associated with it? So the value proposition changes significantly when we think about it from a commercial perspective.
Okay, and that makes sense.
Michael, one thing I would add to that, in the example that I used, there's just 2 sort of points. One is with our existing customers, we had to figure out what does that mean? Because we're a human capital business. So most of our work is based on how many people are doing the work for X client. But in this case, we looked at our existing clients and said, okay, we'll manage the pricing as we will. But for new clients, we took a new billing approach. So instead of it being how many people do you have working in document production, it's per recorded hour. We charge on a per recorded hour basis. So if we drive, so per recorded audio hour. So if we can get that done instead of in an hour, we can get it done in a half hour. We can enjoy the financial benefits of the technology and the people that are involved in the QA. So we can get advantages there. So sometimes, and Aaron, you alluded to this in one of your comments, that I think we're going to see changing business models, because when you are human capital and you're people-based, you have to make money somehow, because this technology, as we all know, is not free to purchase, and it's very expensive to maintain, depending upon how large your volumes of data are that you're managing. And then you have the regulatory environment as well. So we have to come up with the pricing models that will support that.
Yeah, I'll actually jump in and add, because that's something that we are trying to figure out right now. And I think to your point, Claire, we are investing so that we can provide a better product and service to our clients. And so no longer is it just the time times the hour spent, but it's the sort of collective value that we are providing, and there's a lot of infrastructure that sort of goes behind that value. So it's something that we are currently navigating, and I'm sure many others are as well.
Yeah.
Claire, you just made a good point in terms of what you're doing to clarify and justify that work. What are you seeing innovative strategies other firms are using in where generating billable work comes into play?
I haven't met anyone yet that has the answer.
What are you seeing?
The banks are different, because the way they charge is different, especially investment banks. That's most of our financial services and private equity. It's a different model. But law firms and consulting firms have a very similar struggle here, because like Williams Lea, we're human capital business. And so it's per person, how many people are working on a project. So the challenge is figuring out, is it a per project basis? And do you just charge on the per project basis rather than people? And we are seeing that. We are seeing people say the entire project is going to cost X. If you can get it done faster because you're using AI, great, that's a win. If you're slower because AI wasn't as efficient, or there were things that you didn't think about when the proposal was put together, then it's not going to be as lucrative for the company. But nobody's cracked it yet.
Yeah, and I think continuing, this is always going to be the case, but even more important now is investing in our people to continue to create differentiable skills in them. So, we're training everyone on Copilot, but, just like 10 years ago, it was, do you know how to use Microsoft Office? It's now going to be, do you know how to use Copilot on every job you apply for? So that's not going to be hugely differentiable, but is critical. We're continuing to invest in making domain experts. So people who really can go very, very deep in specific areas in a vertical market to make it attractive for our clients. We're doing things like partnering with niche products and third parties to, again, kind of round out offerings that we may bring to a client. And then, of course, there's inorganic expansion. So acquiring others, complementary professionals and firms that can help us now go back into our existing client base and cross-sell and upsell additional services.
Yeah.
Yep.
Brittany?
If I could.
Oh, sure.
Sorry,
Go ahead, John, please.
Look over the horizon. Ultimately, we as consultants would like to be compensated based on the value that we're adding to our clients. And so wouldn't it be great for us to get to a point where we're being measured by the shareholder value impact that we've made? Now, on some of the work that we do that is more specific, more granular, we'd like to be judged as a function of the value that we add to that particular project or the way that we're advancing a particular program that we're trying to impact. And wouldn't it be great that we were compensated that way? And yes, has that code been completely cracked? No, but here's an opportunity in Gen AI to give us this strong hip check toward where we ultimately want to be, and that's paid for the value that we're providing, not just the hours that we're pouring in.
Interesting. Okay. I want to interject here just briefly to our audience. Please utilize the Q&A segment. If you have a question, or if our discussion is generating a specific question, please go ahead and type it in there. We'll make sure we can get you to your questions afterwards, or at least address it through our discussion. So let's talk about data cleansing and really the function of meeting regulations and protecting privacy, et cetera. How is the efficiency in those making it easier to harness that power? Is in the hidden information within content and document management systems. So I think to pare that down a little bit, how's it making it easier for us to manage this data and find information we weren't really aware of? Aaron?
We've touched on some really great methods already. I mean, we talked about how we can now transcribe information very quickly. I'll give an example here to where we were doing a vendor consolidation bid with a client, and instead of what would normally take weeks of sifting through and reading hundreds and hundreds of their vendor contracts and third-party contracts, we could use Gen AI to almost instantly summarize the key terms, which gave a huge amount of responsiveness back to the client. And it was after that we said, well, we're doing this for our clients. Why aren't we doing this ourselves internally? And so, we went to our procurement team, we went to our contracts team, and worked to implement the technology there to see how we could uncover terms that maybe were not consistent and we can go back and fix, or other hidden risks like that. And so I think, the most, without getting too technical, kind of the most exciting advancement beyond just the LLMs with Gen AI is what's called this RAG model, where you can now put all this unstructured data that you have, so documents and contracts, presentations, whatever, into these models and be able to get information back out, data and insights. And that's been a huge game changer in pretty much every department that we have in figuring out, again, getting key insights, how to become more productive, how to optimize, and frankly, where to reduce things like tech debt, so that we can cut costs along with gaining the productivity.
Yeah, and I'll jump in because I think this is probably the first real opportunity for our organization to really benefit from Gen AI. And I think I imagine all consulting firms are the same. We have so much content, right? And I know knowledge management in particular is one of those areas that is very difficult to figure out. How do you maximize the knowledge within your organizations? And so I think one of the things that we are doing, we're piloting it, we haven't quite launched it yet, is leveraging sort of the AI tools in our EDMS to do exactly what you mentioned, Aaron, and sort of give us summaries of the content within folders or search for that content. The other thing that I think we're really excited about is leveraging Gen AI to tag documents so that they're more easily found and we can find better examples and templates within sort of our database. So that's something that in the past we would have to manually review documents and manually tag them. And so now we're working to sort of teach our AI tools what a standard document looks like, and it's helping us flag them automatically, which I think is a huge improvement, because otherwise we're spending the hours searching for that information ourselves.
John, what would you add to that?
Underscore exactly what was just said.
Good. Well, I want to here. I think is kind of the big question. Okay, we want to grow. Our firms want to grow. We have all these tools for operational efficiency. Where does the balance lie? And I'm sure there's an element of the size of the firm and budgets, et cetera, but how do you best balance strategic growth with operational efficiency overall? And I think probably we're going to come back to the run, walk, crawl thing. But Claire, how can a firm best strike this balance? What are the key points in making sure that they're going down the right path to be efficient?
I actually think they're linked. So the piece that I mentioned a few minutes ago, where one of our colleagues or a firm in consulting has built the capability using large language models to tap into previous experience in the firm. This is amazing because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So you can, if you have the presentations, the proposals, the learnings from an engagement from a year ago, I mean, there's a time limit on it because some of the information is valuable beyond a year, maybe two, and a lot of other information is just stored. But to be able to conduct a search and be able to get access to internal information and external information so you can quickly become fluent on a topic that you want to stand in front of a prospect and say, I understand your industry, clean tech in California. You've saved yourself hours of work and money for the firm because maybe some of the research work that would have taken days is all available in your internal content and your external. So I think, Michael, and I actually heard someone from a bank, a client from a bank say, we've spent so much money on client facing and driving business, we're going to step back for a moment and look at operational efficiency. So can you do both at one time? I don't know. I think, you have to look at each project and determine this will drive both. It'll drive internal efficiency as well as, springboard us more quickly to growth. And then other times you have to make a decision. What's going to help the company more? I mean, we're in the camp. We're very much about our clients. What can we do to drive stickiness with our clients and efficiency? But I think, Michael, those decisions have to be made on a project by project basis. Can it do both? And if not, what's more important right now?
Yeah. Michael, I think one of the considerations here has to be with intentionality. We've got this new tool, and can we take advantage of all of the capabilities that the new tool provides and all of the opportunities that can be painted in front of us? And what I've seen successful are those who say, here's a place that we can be very intentional, both in terms of its efficiency and the way that we're able to leverage that to an external market. And it's being able to focus down on those specific areas where success has been seen and exploited. And by exploited, I mean in a larger way, or in a positive way. It's those who are like throwing all the tinker toys on the table and saying, let's try them all out, where there's been a lot of consternation around, well, what is it that we actually do first? In many cases, what's the old saw, right? Fail fast.
Yeah.
That is leading to fail fast is leading to a lot more success in this space than let's continue to take a look at the entire universe of things that we can do and somehow try to figure that out on a more structured basis. That's years worth of study and very little movement.
Let's go a little further in that. We're talking about how AI internally. I mean, a lot of times firms suffer from the cobbler's kids. They're in engaging all of these technologies and stuff for the benefit of their client. And I think Aaron touched on this. Sometimes we don't apply it internally and figure out how we can best do it. So in terms of that assessment, looking internally and saying, how can we do this better? Where AI efficiencies may or may not, anything, what support functions, general support functions that may or may not be or already maxed out in terms of AI, what are viable options for outsourcing? What are those support functions? What do they look like? Which ones in the firm should you look to first if you're not finding the efficiencies you want and you want to go, maybe it's better for us to just push this to an outsource? Claire?
Well, what we're seeing our clients do is definitely in the area of presentation and creative, because we produce millions of PowerPoint slides every year. PowerPoint's not going away. It's only going to be enhanced as part of, the utilization of AI. And then administrative support. So those are probably the two key areas in administrative support, expense accounting. Sometimes it's working on proposals with the consultants. The key is let the consultants focus their brains on areas that are going to drive client relationships, that are going to drive growth, and hand off work that can be done by others to the professionals. This is what we do for a living. And our people live and breathe this. Our clients buy two things from us. They buy quality and turnaround time. So when we can deliver the quality and the turnaround time that is better than what they can get internally at 24/7, follow the sun, they're looking at it and saying, that's better for me. I loved it when one client said to me, you know what? It's not my problem. It's yours. And that's the best thing in the world, because you kind of look at it and say, yes, it is my problem, but this is what we do, so we can handle it. I think that's what's happening. And we saw a lot more outsourcing during COVID because people looked at it, and since COVID, because people looked at it and said, I used to think everybody had to be sitting together to get this work done, and they know they don't. So it's been good for outsourcing.
Brittany, from a non-huge firm perspective, give us your perspective on that.
Yeah, so I do think outsourcing is going to be the next step for us. I think what we've been really doing is focusing on our foundation. So, I'm a firm believer that you need to have sort of the processes and the roles and responsibilities all mapped out first, and then you can leverage technology, or you can bring in a partner to really help you optimize. So I'd say we at Halloran, we have been focusing on just that. So making sure we've been investing in our back office support functions. So things like our marketing and sales team, we have sales operations, we have project operations. And so these are sort of administrative support functions that are offsetting the costs for our consultants. But I will say the next iteration for us is to lean into technology and partners to optimize and scale. So we can't scale by just continuing to add headcount to support that. So I think now that we're going to have that foundation, the next step is going to be, okay, how do we evolve the way we work? But we had to start with the foundation first.
John, Aaron, anything to add to that? Okay. Claire, you talked about the effect of COVID. And the lagging effect of COVID, of people going, oh, hey, we really don't have to operate that way anymore. Who knew? So I'm kind of going to throw this question in here out of the blue. How are hybrid and remote work strategies affecting the growth and strategies, and efficiency of firms? I mean, we had no idea 4 years ago that we'd be sitting here and having this entirely new paradigm for how we work. So working in your office or remotely clearly are affecting how firms operate. So what does that look like in terms of being efficient and growing? Claire?
One thing I would say there is consulting firms have always kind of been hybrids. So they were the leaders in this space. But for companies like Williams Lea and many of our other clients who weren't, Williams Lea has a digital client platform. So it's called Engage. And it manages all the requests that come in from our clients. So a request comes in for a PowerPoint slide to be cleaned up, to be beautified, whatever it happens to be, or a document to be managed. And we have full chain of custody. We can tell who's touched that document the whole way through, and then reporting, Michael. And I think that's the most important thing that our clients get out of it. So they can see, where are the requests coming from, who's making this request. At the same time, we can see productivity. And we know who's working in a hybrid environment. And our data showed that when people were in a hybrid environment where they could split office as well as home office, they were more productive. So we're
Aaron?
big.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think it comes down to one thing. I mean, happy employees are more productive, period. And giving them flexible work choices, whether that's work from home or hybrid, they're going to, in most cases, perform better if you're hiring the right folks. I would say the one downside that I've seen from these is with younger workers, so college graduates and things like that, where they don't get the same level of mentorship or kind of casual conversation that allows them to come up to speed or absorb the culture and the and kind of the other organizational pieces that maybe we take for granted.
Yeah, Aaron, I'll add to that and extend out to the client as well. At the risk of repeating myself, it's relationships that are the coin of the realm here. And with clients now having expectations that we're going to be in more of a hybrid, with clients also having their internal policies, one of working more from at home, being able to physically get in front of somebody and continue to create that relationship, as well as have the staff there to learn on the fly, just picking up things that are walking the halls, if you will. That will continue to be a challenge. So where COVID taught us where the efficiencies were, I think we're still learning how to expand that back out to be more effective when we think about growth models, which is the subject of this presentation, which is, guys, how is it that we think about growth in light of the fact that we find extraordinary efficiencies? I've seen some that have gotten very narrow in terms of, wow, this saves us so much money that we have to do this, unfortunately, too much. And those are things I've seen in the marketplace.
Brittany, I'm going to before we go to our Q&A section, I'll let you close out with comments on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think like everyone, we're trying to figure out what the right balance is. I mean, we are almost fully remote right now. We do have offices that I think we want to lean back into. And I don't have a crystal ball for exactly what that's going to look like, but I think to the point that Aaron made, I do think our more junior staff, I don't think that they get the benefits of being around our experts and sort of having those conversations, those casual conversations, and learning from their colleagues. And I do think our culture suffers as well. I don't get to have the sort of walking through the hall, stop and have a conversation with some of my colleagues as often as I used to. And that's something that we need to be able to recreate. And even though we've been very intentional about trying to do it from a remote capacity, it's very hard to replicate.
Thank you. I think this is a good spot. We've got just a few minutes left. I want to get to some of the questions the audience has been pointing out to us. One of the questions is, how do we address the cost of data protection and factoring in pending regulations as part of your cost model and value proposition when utilizing AI? So I guess it's that big question mark out there. How do we address how that cost could increase or decrease in terms of our budgets moving forward? I'll let anyone take this. That's a toss-up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in. I don't think we have the answer, to be honest. I do know, I mean, as we've been thinking about AI, sort of data privacy, security, all of that, like that's at the forefront. So if as we start to expand into this, especially for our clients and leverage it for our services, that's going to be the top priority before we actually launch anything. But from a cost perspective, I don't have the answer to that one.
Well, and I think let's steer this conversation towards processes, because dealing with AI, we run into tons of issues with privacy, and I used to think LLM for years was just a fancy degree for lawyers. Now understanding that it's truly a function of how we are interacting with AI, it's very important to be careful with understanding how you're using that data and what data you're putting in and why it's at risk if you're not in a closed environment. So talk real briefly about, and I think Aaron, I'll go to you in this. Talk real briefly about the protections that you're putting in there.
Yeah, no, it's definitely real, and we've heard a lot of the horror stories, I think, come out around private data being exposed. And so, for example, our machines are locked down. We can't use like ChatGPT and things like that. But we know folks who will do it on their personal laptops and things like that. And so, how do you prevent that? And I think the fastest way we did it was by adopting a solution that is protective. And we use Copilot now internally in Azure. All of our data stays with us. It just enriches the models. And it also will take the data markings and take those into account too. And I think what I've learned from this is people don't do a great job data marking whether something's confidential or proprietary or whatnot. And so we've had to going back to kind of the data cleansing. We've had to, it's kind of been a lesson there. But there's solutions around that today. And it's only going to get better. Today, most of us are using these very large models, a Gemini or an OpenAI or whatnot. There'll be smaller, cheaper models that will be coming out that are more specialty purpose. Eventually, we'll have internal models that will host ourselves that will be proprietary. So, we're kind of just in the first inning, maybe not even the first inning of this game. And it's only going to get easier.
Yeah, maybe the
Claire,
only thing
I saw you nodding your head.
I think it's like everything, it'll get easier and hopefully cheaper because everything's new right now. It's costing a lot of money, but actually there are going to be efficiencies even in the tech that is that will enable everyone to be able to be involved. Maybe the largest firms will have their own big data warehouses. Others, most of us are going to use AWS, Azure, and we're going to rely on them for a lot of the security, and then our own guidelines from our CISOs to make sure that we're not doing anything particularly with client data, because we all know there are restrictions around that.
Yeah,
and that's going to be the challenge.
I was going to jump in and just maybe to add to that, I'd say the first step for any organization is to put an AI policy in place and educate their employees. Yes. So even educating them on an open versus a closed environment, that's something that they just need to be aware of. What they put into ChatGPT is out there. So that was something that we did early on.
Yeah, totally unrelated to this discussion. I think we're about to enter a world where I think elementary school basic education is going to have to address how you work with computers and information. I mean, it's they're going to live with it for the rest of their lives. So we're about out of time here. I really want to thank my panelists today. You've provided some amazing information and insight. I wish we had another hour because I'm sure we could continue this. I want to thank you for being part of it. I want to thank all of the folks who have joined us today for participating. And I did not get to all of the questions. However, we will try and respond to them directly and get everyone who asked a question there. I hope everyone found it useful today. I want to thank our panel for lively and informative discussion. Claire, Aaron, Brittany, John, thank you so very much. Please look for an upcoming article in Consulting Magazine. We'll feature the key takeaways from this discussion and probably have a link so you can rewatch this on demand. A special thank you to our production team, and again, our gratitude to Williams Lea for sponsoring today's program. Thank you all again for joining us today.
Okay, Michael, thank you very much for hosting today, and thank you to your panel for being here. As Michael mentioned, we want to thank Williams Lea for supporting today's event, and also too, Williams Lea has some additional materials that you can download and explore later. If you missed any part of this presentation, remember it'll be archived shortly at consultingmag.com, so you can view it again there or refer someone else to it. And while you're on that page, we encourage you to look at some other upcoming and on-demand events that we have. Thank you once again, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.